What is up everyone, it's Alex here. Welcome to Financial Freedom Starting from Scratch episode 4, where we will go over what to do once you save $1,000. If you're new here, welcome. This series documents how I would start the financial freedom from $0 by actually starting from $0 together with you. So if you want to join me on the journey, feel free to subscribe and join the path to financial freedom. The structure of the video is going to be similar as in the previous videos, so let's start with a short update on our current financial journey. We are still on the emergency fund building phase. If you watched any of the previous videos, you know that this is the first financial freedom goal that we have to achieve, a $3,000 emergency fund to cover our 3 months worth of expenses. In the last video we were at $2,000 and since then I made another contribution of $500. So now we are at $2,500. We are very close to achieving our $3,000 goal, so I'm stoked for that. I'm still deciding what's going to be the store of value for the emergency fund. I'm about 70% sure about it, even though it's going to be a little bit unconventional, or more unconventional I would say, but I really don't care about that. The goal is to preserve purchasing power, and that's going to be our driving force. Now let's get into do this once you save $1,000 discussion. Most of the YouTube videos on this topic are going to tell you to invest your money in a tax-free account like an IRA in the USA or an ISA in the UK, as if this would be the best place to put your first $1,000. Others will tell you to invest in yourself, but 99% of the information that you need in order to upgrade your financial mindset or your mindset in general towards work discipline and things that are going to make a meaningful difference in your life are free on YouTube and on Google. It might be pointless to spend $1,000 to invest in yourself when you can get most of what you need for free from YouTube videos like this one and free information that's available on the interwebs. What I just said does not apply to getting a license like a real estate license or by paying to go to an exam in order to increase your earning power or to give yourself access to a job. What I'm talking about is information that's available and free on YouTube videos or in YouTube videos and on the internet. This also includes mainstream books that are summarized for free on YouTube and on internet. And you can actually probably access a lot of them for free if you know what you're doing. Another advice in YouTube videos is to start a business with $1,000. While it's nice to have the entrepreneurial spirit, probably 95% of the people are going to invest, quote unquote, invest the money and not make any meaningful return and basically burn those $1,000. You have to know that the online space is extremely competitive and crowded. And if it would be as easy as everyone says it is to just invest $1,000 and you can make millions of dollars, then probably everyone would be doing it and we would all be sitting on a beach managing our online businesses or money-making machines and enjoying life. But that's not the case. Let's look at an alternative order, and instead of telling you what you should do, I'm going to tell you what I would do in order to guarantee that I would get a risk-free return on my $1,000. The first thing would be to pay off high interest credit card debt. Now, I do not have any credit card debt, but if I would have any credit card debt, that's where I would stuff those $1,000. Here's a story to drive this home. Peter just saved his $1,000, his first $1,000. He Googles and finds out that the average stock market return for the past 10 years was around 7 to 10%. But he also looks at his credit card statement and he sees that he has an interest rate of 20% on his credit card debt. Now mind you, he asks himself, where should I invest those $1,000? In the stock market, where maybe I would get a 7 to 10% return on my investment, or by paying off credit card debt where I would get a 20% guaranteed return on investment on my $1,000? Well, Peter takes a wrinkled napkin and he does a quick math. $1,000 invested in a stock market at 7 to 10% would give him about $70 to $100 in 1 year. $1,000 used to pay the 20% credit card debt would guarantee him a return of $200 per year. Peter has an aha moment when he realizes that, well, he would have a guaranteed risk-free return of $200 versus maximum $100 by paying off his credit card debt instead of investing the $1,000 in the stock market, where the return is not even guaranteed. It might be a year where the stock market stays flat and he would earn nothing. Peter rocked the napkin math. Learn from Peter, be like Peter. So if I would have credit card debt, that's where I would put the $1,000 and everything that I would have coming in until I would have, how does Greg Doucette, I think, says $0 credit card debt. But because I do not have any credit card debt, we did not start the journey with paying off the credit card debt, but we started with the next step, which is building a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. We started this journey with the goal of building a 3 to 6 month emergency fund by building a 3-month emergency fund as soon as possible and then extending the goal to 6 months for the rest of the year. This way, no matter what happens with our main source of income, we can still post videos, which is very, very important, but we can also support ourselves for about 3 months until we get ourselves back together. This is the first step towards financial freedom, and I cannot express to you how calmer and less anxious life gets when you know you have some financial security. It's unbelievable. The next step is optional, but we already touched on this in the beginning of the video, and that would be to find a store of value for the emergency fund. But please keep in mind that keeping the emergency fund in a checking account or in cash, it's fine. So for me, and for me only, part of the emergency building fund process is going to be to find a store of value that it's going to hopefully appreciate the emergency fund at least with the rate of inflation, the reported rate of inflation, or the CPI. The problem that we all currently have is that interest rates are at an all-time low. Checking accounts basically yield nothing, saving accounts yield nothing, high interest rates savings account basically yield nothing, and in nominal returns they are negative, so we are basically losing money. To be more precise, we are losing purchasing power, but we are losing money. So there are very few options out there that are going to guarantee a small return, or at least a return that's going to keep up with inflation while also having our money in a bank or in a traditional financial institution. Here's another story with Peter. Peter just saved his first $6,000 as emergency fund, and he decides that he's going to stuff them in a checking account where he will earn nothing. Peter is aware that inflation is about 3% or so, but he does not care. For 7 years, Peter has no emergency. So at the end of the 7 years, Peter will still have $6,000 in his bank account, but we have to account the purchasing power of the $6,000 after 7 years of compounded inflation at 3%. Because Peter earned 0% on his $6,000 for 7 years, he actually had a negative 3% return on his emergency fund compounded for 7 years due to inflation. Basically, Peter lost $1,150 in 7 years by earning nothing on his emergency fund. That's the power of negative compounding of inflation. So in order for him to rebuild his purchasing power or the purchasing power of his emergency fund, he would have to come up with an additional $1,150 in order to add it to the current $6,000 in order to be able to buy the same goods or services that he was able to buy 7 years ago when inflation did not eat that much of his emergency fund. However, if Peter would have been able to earn about 5% for only 4 years on his emergency fund, he would have $7,300. After 7 years with the same average inflation rate of 3%, the new $7,300 would cover as much as the initial $6,000 did in the first place. So Peter would not have to contribute any additional money to the emergency fund in order to preserve the purchasing power of the emergency fund. That's why inflation sucks. Stable coins might be an option to earn 6 to 8% on the emergency fund and to keep the emergency fund growing at least with the rate of reported inflation with the CPI. The volatility on this is zero, the interest is earned daily, and the withdrawals are available in 1 business day. Not bad at all. The only downside is that those companies that are offering those products are not FDIC insured, and your money are basically not insured if the company goes under. But if you are stuffing your emergency fund under the mattress, you are not FDIC insured either, so it's basically the same thing. It might be more tempting to spend the emergency fund if you have easy access to the money than keeping them in a savings account or in a checking account or converted into stable coins that might be able to earn 6 to 8% every single year. By the way, this is an option that I'm taking into consideration, knowing that I continuously save money and the risk of me losing the emergency fund is less than 5%. So I'm just gonna throw it there. Only after doing all the above, only after paying all the credit card debt, only after building a 3-month emergency fund to 6-month emergency fund, I will start considering investing in the stock market. This is when I would start to calculate my financial independence number. This is where I would start to maybe invest those $1,000 to maybe start some sort of side hustle if I would need to spend those $1,000 in order to start the side hustle, because most of the time you can start it with your phone and with your laptop. So it might not be worth investing those $1,000 if you already have those gadgets. When you have zero debt and you have positive cash flow, then you know that you can sustain the wealth building process and you can sustain a side hustle. At this stage, you can figure out how much you would need to be financially independent, what's your savings rate, how much you are going to contribute to your brokerage accounts, like your investing accounts. When do you want to retire? What's your goal for retirement? And all those other things. It's not going to be much different than it was with building the emergency fund, because now the money are not going to go into the emergency fund account, but into the investing account or the side hustle account. So the habits that you build by paying off debt and by saving and building an emergency fund are basically the same habits that you are going to use for the wealth building process from now on for a long period of time. There's no magic trick, it's only hard work and long-term outlook, but the payoff is insane. And the beauty of it is that it's very, very simple, but more on that later. So we made it to the last part of the video, to the Q&A section or the summary section, because, well, we still do not have any questions, so there's no questions for us to answer. And because of that, let's have a short summary of all the steps that I mentioned in part 2 of this video. So what to do once you save $1,000? More specifically, what I would do once I would save $1,000. The first thing that I would do is to pay off any high interest credit card debt. Then and only then I will start building an emergency fund or contribute beyond $1,000 to an emergency fund until I get 3 to 6 months worth of expenses covered. Optionally, I would find a store of value for the emergency fund, but remember that it is okay to keep the money in cash or in a checking account or in a traditional high interest savings account, but know that inflation is probably going to eat away the purchasing power. And then and only then I will start investing in myself, I will start investing in the stock market, and I would start maybe a side hustle with the $1,000. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, take care, have a wonderful day, and don't forget that you are amazing.